Yeah. First of all, let me check. Like everybody is able to see me. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir, we all can hear you.
Okay, and I'm visible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So first of all, thank you for this great opportunity to share my experiences, knowledge on IT infrastructure. As just well said, I have worked in IT for last around 20 years, and the technology evolved in 20 years with major changes almost in every 2 years. IT is highly dynamic and versatile as per the market trends, as like you all know. So, first of all, like I would like to welcome all of my participants, and it's I would like this would be a very lovely session, and so basically the concept what we will be talking about here today is like what the technology has zoomed, or basically what is the trend as of now, and how the technology evolved from time to time. So if you speak about my experience, 20 years I have mainly worked as a starting career was as a system admin, system engineer, like Windows desktop support, as I started with 1998. So the IT at that time was just like working on a very small local area infrastructure, LAN, WAN, and all those things. So, but when we talk about today, we are on very huge infrastructure, which is data centers, iCloud, then virtualization. So things and terms and technologies have totally been changed. So this session will be more, we'll walk through about how the things have moved from time to time, how the market trends were before, and how it is being right now. So the people who are like, most of you will be like career conscious and will be very much knowing like what we should do right now, what is the best thing in the market to seek a job, or like what is good to them. So this session will be mainly, I'm not basically a programmer side from the software side, so won't be able to help you much. But I, being on the infrastructure support as a data center operations manager, or basically service delivery manager, and I am being a very core, like uh, technical hardcore person. So I love to be sharing my experience with all of you. So to start with, I have just now said, so let's take it into different stages, like how the things evolved. When we talk about in 1990s, let's see how the technology was. So maybe like many of the people might not even know, but the fundamentals of IT will still remain the same. They are the building blocks. The technology might be renamed or might become more user friendly, redundant, or anything more versatile, but the fundamentals will remain the same. So let's go to the building blocks and fundamentals of IT. So initially when we go in 90s, the things were like uh, small office areas LAN. When we talk about a small local area LAN, it means like there were some clients and a server. So this is what basically a LAN is. LAN can be like 10, 15 systems, laptop, desktop as of now, which are still today. So they used to be connected to a switch or a router or basically a hub. I don't. So these things still there, but now very less used because the technology again has become more moved to wireless technology and all those things. So, but at that time, it's supposed to be like even when we go to networking in data center, the concept is still the same. So the thing started with a small thing, and then it starts going expanding, expanding, expanding. Because why? Because the client, the business, the market, that has become very highly dependent on IT. When we talk about IT, the client's expectation today is like they need an uptime of 99.9%. 9% uptime. Because why? Because even 1 minute, if there is a data loss, or even there is a 1 minute, maybe like a flicker or a disconnection with the application, it's a huge loss with the market, with the products, with the production, because the companies are doing manufacturing. Even nowadays, like all IT services, e-commerce, everything is running on infrastructure which is based on IT. So things that when we talk starting about LAN, the things were like there is a one huge big server which has a, when we saw about server or a desktop, things is like a desktop or a server, they have a small capacity of hard disk basically, and there will be CPU, RAM, and all those things. When we talk about hardware, then we will also talk about the OS as well. So the difference between a client or a desktop or a thing or server is nothing much, but the thing is a server is a huge desktop, maybe I can say. Because why? It's a very highly reliable and redundant hardware. It has multiple CPU and processors. So basically it is fast, it is more redundant, and it can take long concurrent sessions. So that's the only difference between when we talk about a desktop or a client or a server. So in those places, there used to be a server. At that time, normally the main big giants which still exist were Microsoft, HP, IBM, so Dell, more as in hardware. So these were the various operating systems used to be. On the client side, the things were Windows, if I start 19s, then it was 95, Windows 98, then came Windows 2000. All the people might be aware of that. So, but we will focus on the server side, because on the server, there used to be Windows NT servers, Windows 2000, then came 2005. These Windows. So basically, Windows, again, the things were like they were more capable of taking the request from the client. So as the infrastructure started expanding, the things became like they need more highly reliable and redundant system. So this was in small office areas. Then the thing is like as the business expanded, then the companies used to have various remote sites as well. Remote site means like there could be different offices. A company who's running might be having different offices. One in Delhi, one is in Chennai, or maybe like it can be like anywhere. Right now, it can be anywhere. We can remotely work from anywhere or any server. But things we started, what about there is an office which have, let's say, four offices in the four major metros of India. Let's Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras. So they used to be having a small local area network in their own office place, but for their basic communication with email or basically a file transfer, or basically they used to work on Microsoft Exchange or maybe server or maybe Word, whatever things their business documents, they used to be shared among their offices, corporate offices, or maybe like regional offices. So the things were these things used to be connected together. So at that time, they came the concept of WAN. So WAN means they are connecting the LAN together for their crucial applications. Or it was not application basically as that, it was just file transfer and email communications at that time. And when we talk about internet, it was a dial-up for like I don't know how many of us like remember we used to dial from a telephone line, and then we have to wait for the tone, and then these were like my experiences which were there. So where when I started my career, but then came the corporate offices which they start working with lead line. There were many telecom giants, Bharti mainly, and many other private companies, MTNL and then BSNL. These are the companies which used to come up with a dedicated fiber optic network all over the country, and they used to give you a lease line on the rental basis or on a dedicated broadband basis. Like it depends on the customer's requirement, what they need, how much is their data which need to be transferred. So when we used to configure on WAN, the things were like now, then came the Cisco routers and all those things which used to be configured. So then the things were confined within their office itself, because this was something what their dedicated network. And internet used to be like on just one side, there was used to be a one web server or an internet or proxy server where the clients used to be put certain hits on them, and then they can browse surfing internet, and internet would have been just like doing small things on Google, or maybe like using Hotmail and something like that. So this is how the things were in 90s, when I've just spoken about concept of how the LAN was, how the WAN used to be work. For many big plants, there were certain locations where like cement factories, or maybe the ONGC or National Thermal Power Stations. So these were the like remote locations where even the telecoms could not, were not having at that time. They, there were very geographical limitations. So in those places, we used to be having VSAT connections. VSAT connections nowadays have become like now mostly like it was through satellite, because it was more like a concepts of a wireless communication, where you don't need very dedicated fiber line, which is very challenging geographically from that location, but people used to be connected. So that was what available at that time. So this was all about the technology that was all going on. So let's now come to what is today. I think what the people now right now want to know. So I'll be now finally focusing on data center. So how the things work, what are the basic building blocks, how the concept of data center came, and what are the major components of data center. And the concept of data center will always be there, even whatever it is, even whenever whenever it is virtualization or cloud or whether automation. In the back end, the main application which is right now running is all data center. So, and the concept of how the data centers are built and how they work is still the same. So let's talk about now how the data centers are working, or what are the things which are the building blocks of a data center. The very first thing in data centers is basically hardware. So when we talk about hardware, again, it is like for user interface, it could be desktops or clients or laptops, or it can be Windows machine running. In the server ends, then again, the servers could be again coming from the giants, which was Microsoft Windows servers, which are still there. They were mainly running on Intel platform. And then there were companies like HP, IBM, Sun Microsystems. Like, so every company came up with their own hardware, own processor, and they came up with their own operating system. Most of the operating systems which were, when I'm talking about these companies, were Unix operating systems. So there was a trend like why the Unix came in the market, because it was more highly reliable. System crashes were not there at that time. When we talk about building the infrastructure in the data center, the reliability is depending on hardware, because any day at one day there could be a fault on the hardware. So these systems used to be highly redundant in terms of hardware, then speed, processing, and capacity of RAM. All those things used to be there, and then they came up with their own operating system. So like HP came with HP UX, then Sun came with Solaris. Sun used to be working also on Intel platform, that's also fine. So but that was not robust, like it used to be having crashes on Intel. Then Intel basis Windows platform used to be having like virus attacks and all those things. So whenever the application has a very redundant, required to be very highly available all the time, like critical crucial applications are running, databases are running, these used to be running on Unix based operating system, because they were more safe than the Windows operating system. So these were the things which were there. So when we talk about server and hardware, the things of concept of even in the data center, the concept of server and hardware is still the same as it started with LAN. Why? Because the things are still the same. The server is going to take the request how many concrete sessions a server can make from a client, that depends on how many user concurrent license that basically the client has purchased. That is how the companies used to make business. They used to sell their hardware, they used to sell their operating system, and then they used to be sell how many licenses they can be possible for the concrete sessions in the server and the client. So these were the things. So then when we came to IBM, then it was AIX. AIX is also a very good, highly robust operating system. But nowadays, when you talk about, might be knowing that the old infrastructure, still all these things are running, and we still need people who, because we need people to support them. We have to give, as long as the client is having that infrastructure, we have to support that infrastructure. It is up to the client if he wants to move to another technology or move to another thing, then that is the process of decommissioning, which is very different. So uh, that is how the things are. So then we come to, this is what I have spoken about, mainly the hardware. Then to connect all these things, there used to be a network devices. When we say network devices, when in the small office area, it was a small LAN or a hub or a switch. But now when we come to data center, the things were like all these servers have to be connected into different like zones, categorizing as per because of their application. Things used to be dependent, like one zone should be like where there will be all dev server, testing servers, then their main production servers will be on the other zone. Why? Because they have to be segregated different. There should not be the, like, because what the concept of data center is basically, now the client need a centralized place where his all his crucial data, or maybe all his crucial applications, they are running in a one centralized center. And people used to support, there will be a team of infrastructure. People used to be like Unix admin, or maybe network administrator, or could be storage administrator, or they could be backup administrator. So all these things were different. These are all the components which were all together. So there were different people which were required to support all the time. So for the this client, basically he needed one centralized place where everything used to be run, and all his remote side people, they used to connect to that data center. So advantages of having a data center used to be like, his data is now very much confined in a very safe, confined place, secured as well. And if anything happens, then the things has to be redundant, because things, if we say like if the data center there is some problem, then what will happen? The whole business will go down? No. So there can be a business continuity plan as well. Why? Because if one side goes down, then the other side, there should be a switchover. Everything should run from the other side. Like if you have a main data center operating all the time from Delhi, then people used to say like they can have the data center somewhere around in Chennai. They would be having a lease line connection and all those things. And if anything goes wrong there, then they can start the applications from the other side, because it has always been in replica. So these are the things. So nobody thought like COVID would be there and we will be working from all our homes. That's a very unique scenario. So, but still data centers are running, and they are running the same way as it is. Only it is like the users have been now not working from the centralized ODC, but they are working from the different places. So this is how the things are. So if I summarize now, like, so the data centers mainly confined of different end user support systems, servers of different operating systems. Then came the, if we say, then there came to be basically a centralized database servers. Why the game of database came? Because if a client is having a query, let's say it's a big basket, something like that. Like now, most of the people will be ordering. So if he used to be having is some app servers, application running on that. But what all items he have, which item is right now, how much is the quantity which is having. How much is the now financially, how much being sold, how much needs to be purchased. So maintenance of stock and all these things, and even finance, billing, everything. So this has to be maintained in a data center, sorry, in a database. So database server used to be like now, Oracle is the very good, like very reputed company and highly reliable in terms of database. So these things used to be, we used to make it databases. So the database admin used to be there. So all the concept came like whenever the hit comes on an app server, application server, the application server sends an internal query to the database server. Now, as the data keeps on growing, expanding and expanding, the server also has a very limited confined space to store the data on a hard disk. Like if we start about hard disk used to be like 10 GB, 20 GB, then came to 500, then 1 TB. But again, it's a limit. So on the back of storage. Why? Because again, the database, it will be first main as a database server, and its main components will be running on the front end on the main OS, whereas on the back end, again, the database will be communicating with another device which is called as a storage. Storage used to be like, there are again two things. One used to be NAS, another used to be SAN. Now, what are these two things? They were, if you know what the name itself, then it clarifies. NAS is basically a network attached storage, and SAN is like storage attached network. The things are like very similar, but if you know the concept or technology, then NAS is basically just like a one, again, a huge box or a server, which is sharing its component to its clients, like just like you share your hard disk on a desktop or a window and can be shared on your local area, different systems on the local area network or a LAN. Same way, like it used to be on storage. So storage NAS was like, there was a huge amount of disk which used to be in a very sequential pattern. Then using RAID configuration logically, like if the maximum limitation is of 1 TB or something like that, but you need a storage capacity of something in 100 TB or something like that, then the things used to be like logically for the database server, the thing seems to be like there is one huge single capacity in a single RAID. And there will be redundancies because again the disk will be keeps on filling. You have to be doing maintenance of hardware and all those things. To the front end application, the things should be running smooth as if nothing is wrong. So NAS was something like a network attached storage. That means a server which is sharing its disk. How it's coming, it can be logical, it can be its own local disk. So this is NAS. But when we talk about SAN, SAN is a very different, complicated concept. SAN is coming main because in NAS the concept was of speed and then broadcast flooding and all those things. So then they decided to make that they will make a confined system or zone for basically all the storage will be there, and then they will connect it to fiber optics. So there comes the concept of HBA cards. So every server is supposed to having an HBA card. Then why again? Then there used to be two HBA cards in one server. So mm, why it was being there? Because if one optical fiber link goes down, again the storage can be connected to the other HBA card from the same storage. So if you talk about what is HBA card, it is just like a network, like for network connectivity or LAN, we used to configure IP address, right? And then if we configure the IP address, subnet mask, and gateway, we are done, right? So this is basically a network card on a server. And then right now we have also the wireless network and all those things. But in HBA card is basically a very hardcore ingredient like MAC address. So MAC address used to be used to configure WWN number and all those things. Like we'll not go much into the deep. Like just to explain what is the concept of storage and SAN. Things used to be not not like normal Cat5 cable we are connecting as we used to do for NAS. Then even like when we talk about NAS, we have like now the concept of Isilon as well. So Isilon is like a huge storage. This library working as a network attached storage. So so this is the thing. Then, but let's come to focus now on SAN basically. So SAN is just like a connecting a fiber optic switch. There used to be two switches. Each switch is being configured redundantly to each HBA card for all the servers. So this is how the things are. So that whenever the database is communicating with the storage, it has to be a very fast connection. Like because otherwise the database server will be waiting for the reply from the storage until unless the query is being fetched. It cannot display the response to the end user. So that comes the concept of optical fiber and SAN. So so this is what I've already spoken about in data center. So there came the concept of network devices, then came the concept of servers and desktops, then came the concept of storage and database servers. So this is more or less same. Then came the concept of certain uh, exchange servers and all those things like internet server, web browsing, because nowadays most of the things in applications are web-based applications. So the end user application is always a web based normally in nowadays. So this is all what is there. So nowadays, like if you talk about HP, IBM or Sun, I think these things are now that at that time they used to be very expensive in license base, but now the thing is like the market is moving. It's always the client is looking for three major things. First thing is how redundant is his system, how reliable it's going to be system. He wants always the system to be up and reliable, even in terms of hardware as well as his application. So data center has to be designed in terms of all these terms. But when we go on with investing, the cost goes high. So when the cost is very high, then there is a limit. There is a limit when the client says, okay, this is my budget. I can't go up to this much cost because everything comes with a cost. So things has to be manipulated, designed as per the to meet the client's requirement with that confined budget, whatever he has, and then his requirement should be met as whatever his need. But things has to be grow. Things will be growing because if the IT is growing, his infrastructure, his business is growing, he might be expanding or scaling his things from time to time in his next 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years plan. That is a separate thing. So this is how the things are. So here, when we talk about reliability, one more important thing which I was spoken right now is the cost. So when we talk about redundancy, when we talk about on servers, the redundancy things came the concept of server clusters. That is one more thing. So here I can just tell you what the clusters are. Clusters are just like if there are like 10, 15 servers, they are with same hardware, same configuration. So many companies came up with the cluster concept. Mainly Velita is a very famous cluster at those times. Then, so the things were like it was a tool or an application where there can be one master node and then there can be other which can be standby or they can be on the load balancing. So cluster used to be like one master and the others are just like its slaves or queries, like same like a peer-to-peer concept. So and the cluster used to be like on load balancer. Load balancer means nobody is a master, nobody is a slave. Everybody, whoever gets the hits, he has to answer the query. So making a cluster, the main advantage is if even one server is down, the end user application will never be down. It will be still running. So for the user level at the interface level, the things will be same. So there came the concepts of clusters. Then when the data center was growing and data is also growing, so then came the concept of taking the backup and replication. So So when we talk about backups and replications, what does that mean is backups at the local data center side and backup of the whole data center on the DR side, so that everything the same, the data is in sync, so that even if one night, if there is a fire or a disaster or a natural calamity on one location, they can be using that same data which is already consisting there on the remote side. They have to just do just one day click 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 click. They have to configure their settings, IP routing, things, and they from the other end. So there comes the concept of reliability again as well, and business continuity plan, which I'm talking about. So these are the things. So at the internal server level, it is just like on your desktop you take the important files on your like maybe in your external disk, or maybe like now many things are available on web also, Google Drive and all those things, or on your email. The things are like similar in the data center. The concept came of backups. So Networker was one of the very good backup tool. Then this came from EMC basically, and then there was the thing basically whatever the company or maybe the tool may be. The things is basically the backup used to be taken on the magnetic tapes. There used to be a tape library, something like a robot, where has a library where all the tapes being there. And in the night when the application is not much loaded, and then it keeps on taking the backup of the main crucial production servers or infrastructure and all those things. So that the importance of taking backup is like if any one of the server is down or has been totally crashed, the disk has gone bad. So what you can do is you can take the golden image which you have in your tape, and you can restore the system back in like in minutes, not in minutes, but maybe in like in half an hour or so if you have a golden image. So that is what how the things are. Then these things were like when the same thing or data is getting replicated on the DR side or being copied on the DR side with the same thing. It's a continuous thing. It's because data is keep on changing. If the application is running, then every night there will be something, a data change in the application in the data center. So this change has to be copied back on the DR side, because in any day, if anything goes wrong, we should know that at which time frame we can restore to what data, which is the last known good data. So there comes to be when the storage used to copy everything to the other side storage, then that is said to be a replication. That is what I am trying to explain. So this is what is storage and storage replication. So this is how what is basically a data center is. Then application servers, when we take about, normally they don't need to be very highly processing, because very high core processing systems are mainly the databases, because that is where the query is running. Application normally just looks for the respond or the query to the database. If the application is not a database or is not dependent on database, then it is something which does not need a very high core or CPU, because the performance of the server or the application mainly depends on how much concurrent CPUs are configured, active or running, how much is the core RAM or memory inside the server, because and how the coding of the application is being done. That is also very important. But more when I talk about from the programming side, the things are different, which is not I am not much being clear about. So that is how the things are. So I think this is what is in the data center. And let's talk about now what I think in the today's world, what is today's technology, what is like IT industries are right now looking for. So because The data concept of data center is still there, the system support, but these will also move from time to time. Why? Because nowadays, in last 2 3 years, the technology has totally been changed. Apart from the data center support and infrastructure support, which is still there, they need people, because now what the things have come, like when people start making data center, the data center is taking huge space, more hardware, more application, more databases, everything is now expanding. So there comes the concept of virtualization. They said, like, let's make a one huge super dome like a server, like very, which has a huge amount of processor, which can be dynamically assigned to any of the NPAs and VPAs, whatever it's like configurations, and then they can make various virtual machines. So there comes the concept of virtualization, like only one hardware, so power is being saved, space is being saved, the maintenance of hardware is being reduced, and virtualization means from the user point of view, again, like in one machine, there can be thousands of VM, there can be thousands of servers. So for the user point of view, it seems like it's a huge data center. There are multiple servers available. So there comes the concepts of VM and virtualization. So advantages of VM and virtualization moved very quickly, very fast. Why? Because if you have redundant number of EXI boxes, where generally where, or maybe like nowadays on Linux and Red Hat is now being mainly used because it's not only because it's being used for an Intel operating system or as an open source, but things it is being very uh, cost effective and very robust and reliable. Like 5 10 years back, people never used to be go on Linux, but they want their high-end application always running on Unix. But nowadays Unix is not much. It's only Unix which is very easily cost-effective, available everywhere. If you say about cloud, it is all Linux. So this is how the things have come. So let's now talk about, just let me introduce what is virtualization. I just explained why and why the virtualization came. So virtualization technology again came the vCenters, or VMware is the company which started actually the major virtualization. So these are the things. And vCenter used to be someone centralized admin box, running mainly can be on the Windows box, where he can manage the ESI box, or maybe whatever is his centralized machine or box, where he can decide how many cores CPU he can define whenever he's going to make a virtual machine. So the concept of VM also was good. Like if you today realize that no, I need some more 2 or 3 core more to be added on the CPU, my application is hard and running on the server. So you can dynamically assign your hardware capacity, the server performance, maybe whether it is RAM or whether it is CPU, or maybe if you want to increase your disk, you can expand. Like, and again, the good thing is, if you think the system is cracked, you can again restore it from your golden image. That was the beauty of VM. So then the things came up. Now let's come to the today's, what is today's right now going on in the market. So in the today's market, as of now, when we talk about, we have basically focusing, see, we are now focusing on automation. Automation in those times when we used to have in the Unix level, it was like scripting, or maybe like setting the things from the housekeeping jobs on the cron. But nowadays when we talk, there have been multiple vast amounts of tools which are available, on which the we have automations which are running, which is like, we have Puppets, Ansible. Like when I'm managing my server, I have a server or data center, we have 1 lakh servers, or maybe like I want to make one general setting change on all those, maybe like 100 servers or 200 servers at a time. So I cannot log in all the machine at a time and run the same command. So what I need, either we used to do it initially through scripting, but nowadays we have tools like Puppet. If someone has worked on, then we have Ansible or Playbook, which is Then all these are things where we can configure or set the things, and it will be propagated to all the servers automatically. This is basically what the automation is. Then automations can be like how you can reduce the amount of incidents which are concurrently occurring, fixing it with a permanent solution, which normally we work in the ITIL process, which is like incident. We analysis how many incidents are coming with one specific issue in a data center, and then what could be its main cause, what is its permanent fix, because solving an incident is just to make a workaround and give it to the user, like, see, your server is back up, the application is running up right now. But fixing it and ensuring that this problem does not come up again, that is called as problem management. So that is another thing. So that can take time something. Then whatever changes you are going to implement on the server, there is a process called change management. Like you need a system or to explain what are the changes. You used to go for a downtime, because if the application, the change is on a production, you can't simply move and change it just one day, because if the application is down, then I think your job is fired. Anything can happen, because nowadays, like, even a 10 minutes down application means it's a huge $1 million business loss. So this is how the things are. So you have to take an approval. Like, there's a tool, like whatever is the application team who's working on it, they have to explain in that tool where what change you are going, whether you need to keep the application down or can you do it online, do you need the database down, or it can be like it can be done on the fly. There's the system needs a reboot. If the system needs a reboot, when we have to ask from the client, like, client, for half an hour, maybe there is something where an activity, this is 1 hour activity, we need a downtime. So he can do a failover. He can make his application run on some other setup or some other device. We can do that. And then we plan all those things, which is called the process of change management. So these are the things, how the things going. So after coming to virtualization, when I say about VMware and all those things, then came the finally what is today. This is some of the automation tools which I've just not told up. And then came the trending towards KVM. KVM is again something like on a Linux or it's just like a server, Linux or Red Hat server, where the Red Hat has come up with its own tool or capability where you don't need a special box like in, you don't have to spare something dedicated hardware to virtualize the machine. So the KVM is like, if you have a good capacity server, then you can install certain configuration tools on the machine, on your simple Red Hat machine, and you can use it for virtualization. Linux is very much like an open source. You can read and go through, install on your laptops. This is what the good thing about Red Hat and Linux. So let's in the final set of, then I'll be, someone has their queries, then I will love to answer that. So basically now I'm going to summarize the whole session. What I was trying to explain is, this is like what are all the components which makes the data center, and what are the trends which is going on, and what we are right now looking like when we go for people hiring, and then what we expect from them. Very thing expect is what is the today's trend in the market, what is the hot cake basically, what is in highly demand. So basically, if I talk about, most of the people ask me like, sir, what should I go, what should I do to enhance my career, enhance my growth. So the see, IT is very dynamic. So if you take 2 years, 3 years line, everything will keep again changing. In next 2 years, again something new will come. So nowadays, if we generally say, when the programming is Java, initially we used to be working on C++. Now Python is there. Python is a very well equipped software for application programming and developing and designing. So in the same phase, like the requirement of network system engineer, or maybe like Windows or Solaris, or maybe now these people have moved to Linux, whatever the things, the main concepts of Unix will remain the same. Storage, they will be there, but from the time being now, what we are looking is now the trend is moving to cloud. So mostly we have AWS, which is a highly demanded like technology, which is working on all most of the clients are going to AWS. Why? Because now they don't even want to take the headache of data center as well. Why? Because in cloud, the thing is like you can make n number. You just ask them how many virtual machines, what is your requirement, how many servers you need, how many applications you run, what is your application capacity for how many period, like maybe for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months for temporary basis or for permanent basis, you need it. So big giants like Google and then other companies like Microsoft, they try to build up their like Apple, they want to make their own basically cloud as well, dedicated cloud. But Amazon has come up with a very good concept, very versatile and very reliable concept of cloud technology and computing. So that is one very good thing that is going on in the market. Other thing is artificial intelligence, which is again a very hot thing, but that will basically change from time to time because it is still evolving right now. So and that is the other thing. Then we have DevOps. DevOps is another a very good learning thing which has to be done because initially people used to be working like they have been given certain project. They will focus on that. They will develop some coding. They will do something. Then it will be testing on a test environment. Then they will slowly move into the UAT. They will show to the client, see the things are working fine. Do you want to make any changes? Then they make changes. And finally, when the customer is satisfied, then the code will move to the production with the change management process. So, but nowadays, what is in DevOps is like there is one DevOps, or maybe I can say agile way of working. So basically, what they are talking about is the client. By the time you develop one something, the, the market trend and the demand from the market for the app is very highly versatile and dynamic. So maybe like if you come up with a code in next 1 month, client may say, I don't know, I don't need this now. I need something great. Then you are being pissed off, right? Yeah, I made this now. You're saying what you need. You don't know what you want, and you can't say this to your client, right? So the concept of agile came up. So like they give you chunks of work. So, and the chunks of work, you work with that, then it is being client will see whether, yeah, this is up to my market requirement. Okay. So they will never be having a dedicated fixed picture that this is going to be my picture because you know, they also don't know the market trend, the products, the requirement keeps changing. So that is what is the agile way of working. And when we talk about DevOps is more the dev means development. People who are doing coding, developing, and they are working continuously dedicated with the infrastructure support, OS, Linux, or maybe storage or what. So these are the people which are together working as a one. And then because whatever the application they might have made, in the end, they might come to know, oh, this application does not run on so and so Linux OL7. This has to be on some other version, or this needs some other patch. So DevOps is more a tool which is a multiple combination of both the technology to enhance and speed up what the client's requirement is. So I think this is what I have spoken and I have done for today. So let me see if I have anything in my chat box to reply. I think I am done. Mm, hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We are
Yeah.
having queries
So
in the chat
yeah. So
box.
I think I have done, and I think I can see if I have my chat box if there is any query for people.
Yes, sir. We are
Mm,
having queries from the candidates.
I can't see my chat box right now. Let me check if I can. Yeah. So, mm, so let me see what are the queries. what is the physical address in a network? Physical address, see, if you talk about the network device, basically it is just conferring on the system is just an IP address, subnet mask, or maybe a gateway. But that is not a physical address. Physical address is basically a MAC, because MAC address is the thing which basically makes the system identifies as a unique. Because see, in a data center there can be lot of servers. So how the switch or a router or an application will come to know that to which server it has to hit, for which request it is actually. So basically physical address we can say is a MAC address, that is more to be like confined about. So, and what is MAC address? See, MAC address is basically, see, all these are hexadecimal codes. This is when the things are being manufactured, then they make an ingrained code inside it. One is from the manufacturer itself. Normally, it is the first few letters or codes will be the manufacturer name who has manufactured it. Maybe like it's an HP or IBM or a Dell, whatever it is. The last four codes will be something else, which makes it is just like it's the address of your house. Like every if there is a block, then there is your flat number or something like that, or commit. So this is what a MAC address is. So it is, to be very conclusive, it is basically an ingraded hexadecimal code which helps the system to identify to which system it is going to be communicating with. But when we talk about security and all those things, because things nowadays, there are a lot of tools where the things can be cyber crime, cyber hacking, and all those things. So actual IP address can be something else, because there can be uh, natting can be done. Now, what is natting is again a very huge scope of thing. But natting is something like the front end. It's a encrypted code which is having some different IP address, and then it's uh, Cisco used to come up with the Cisco PICs and something like that, and then they used to resolve it into the actual IP address, and then to identify using the DNS server that to which server this request has to go. That is what is basically. Then what is next? So I think I have answered what is physical, what is MAC. Then when we come to storage, it is more MAC addresses like WWN number. So, but these are all, to be very specific to the point, these are all hexadecimal codes. It's all in the machine level. So, what else? I think I have very well answered like how the technology has changed from 2000 to 2020. That is what the whole session was all about. So, um, talking about coding on HTML, HTML is now more like, I'm not from the application point of view, but uh, now Python is more being used specifically for, it's again an advanced version of HTML, URLs, and all those things. So Java is basically Java and Python. These are the two things which are mainly used for developing. C++ was also there, but again C++ is now moved to Python, which is basically Python is also all based on C++. So when I say HTML, I think Java is the advanced tool which is being used nowadays. But I have not much worked on application. Sorry, I can't answer much on the application point of view. How to start in IT field, my career. Basic knowledge of hardware and networking. See, nowadays, like I started 20 years back with hardware as a networking engineer. I did CCNP, CSE, and all those things. So I am Sun certified. I am almost every OS certified from the Unix platform and all those things. So you basically, if you talk about just doing a hardware support, That is what is very common. Everybody has done it. Like so, if you want to start your career in an IT industry, IT giants like TCS or HP, or not sorry HP, HCL or something like that, which is called Wipro is more like a software developer company, but still they do support for infrastructure hardware. So basically, you have to enhance something which is currently now running. I think during the end of my session, which I have spoken, that more or less has given what you should move on. But please move on to at least to Linux, Red Hat, as what I have seen in my nowadays. Or if you can move to AWS, because see, if you are starting your career young and energetic with like so learning, there is no age bar. So these are the things which you can work on, which is highly demand in the market. So just doing knowledge on hardware and networking, those days are gone now. You will not be highly good paid at that time. That is also. You will be just moving the parts here and there and then replacing the things. Java, yes, demand is still there. Then I think most of the people have asked Mac and network and Mac ID. So I think I am done with that. Then demand in CCNA, not routers, Cisco. Mm, things are there. The old data centers and concepts still are there, but it's a competitive thing. Yeah, you can do. See, even if you do, it's not good just for like for a job. See, if you have learned something, the fundamentals remains the same. At least from my point of view, I want to say you should know at least one operating system in Unix, whether it is let's say Linux or Red Hat. Even Windows is just user friendly. It's a GUI based. That's the only difference. And Unix is a command line. That's the difference. But in the background, things are same. So you should know at least one operating system. If you really want, then you can see what the requirement is and what is the client requirement or whatever way, wherever you have joined, then you can mold yourself. So at least one operating system you should know and at least one networking device. If you have done CCNA, that means you have very well good on TCP IP concepts and routing or configuring things on network, because now network is not like CCNA. CCNA gives you a very small view, but now when we talk about network, we talk about network securities. Now, network securities is again a huge ocean. So, network security, NATing, PAT, all the port translations. This is all the things are there. So, simply doing is just a one step or two steps. See, you can't give a jump with 3 or 4 steps in your learning path. You have to slowly move to it. So this it will give you enhanced fundamentals, but you have to keep on learning and keep on doing as per the market requires. So now what else is there? Can I create a career in IT without science? Yes, you can. If I can say, because see what basically we need. If when I'm hiring people for TCS, we are looking for mainly two things. One, you should have a very high learning, like the desire to learn basically things. And then second thing is you should be down to earth with a very friendly attitude. We don't like people to be arrogant. Okay. So these are the two things. So science is very general thing. So if you are down to earth, hardworking, and have a desire to learn new things, then you are most welcome. But you should have at least 3 to 4 years experience on whatever technology you have come on. So this is not like, this is now not like we will be because
Normally TCS hires people from the campus itself. If we talk about freshers, if you going from the uh, interview from the IT experience point of view, if you are showing something, then you really have to be a practical down to earth experience. Because if you ask 2, 3 practical scenario questions, and if you have just done certification, then it's not going to help you much. But yeah, if I say the challenge, you say like how you will be having a practical experience, then I think you are very lucky. Nowadays, when we were used to be there, when we were working on the HP UX or Solaris and all those things, we never used to have the hardware. But I did some practical experience with Solaris, installing Suns on my laptop, and then I did experience on Linux. Sorry, on Solaris. But nowadays you have Linux. Linux is an open source. You can very easily download on make virtualizations. Everything is available in the Google. Just search and do practical things. We don't ask you to give you infrastructure support. Okay, we are there to help you for that. You will learn with experience. But at least you should know what an operating system is, how it runs, what it is, that we are not going to teach you. Like you should know, like if you are Red Hat certified, people are coming, sir, I am Red Hat certified. Okay, let me see, have you really worked on Red Hat, or have you really worked on Linux? At least you should know the basic concepts, how the Linux runs, how the Linux works. So that is what is. I think I have answered most of the things people looking like from the career point of view, what they should do. So I think most of the common questions I have answered. Which technology currently used in MNC? I think I've answered. There's not much more to reply on that. SQL. SQL is basically like it came from the Microsoft, and just like Oracle came with an Oracle database, and Microsoft came with an SQL database. Now, that is what I basically know. So it was made mainly to do small queries running on Microsoft Exchange, Microsoft Exchange servers, or maybe Microsoft databases. But what is SQL is mainly, what I understand is mainly coming like a different company of Microsoft, which is not much nowadays used. So nothing much to know about what is SQL. It was long time back, like 5, 10 years, where people used to be running SQL. It is different from HTML. HTML is totally different. HTML is just your web page. You can make your web page yourself, basically. That is all. Until it is not being published, nobody will be able to go through it. But HTML is just a web page. It's just a pointer. It points to a page. Like if you click on that page, you will see something else, whatever you want to display. It's like web hosting or web servers. That is what is HTML. HTML coding is also now based mainly on Java only. The coding is mainly done on Java. So I think I am done.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot for sharing such an insightful knowledge of yours with all of us. I hope we all are very much clear with the concept of IT sector and IT's software and the purpose of IT sector into the industry. Thanks a lot again, sir. Thanks a lot for sharing such an
Yeah,
insightful knowledge.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for being a participant of this event, for having such a great knowledge with Mr. Rajat, sir, from TCS. Yeah, thanks a lot, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.